Open up your Bible to Genesis 8. We are going to talk about how God saved his people in Noah and bring the flood to a stop. Genesis 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and all the domestic animals that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind blow over the earth, and the waters subsided. And the fountain of the deep and the windows of the heavens were closed. The rain from the heaven was restrained, and the water gradually receded from the earth. At the end of 150 days, and the waters had abated. And in the seventh month, on the seventh day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountain of Ararat. And waters continued to abate until the 10th month, and the 10th month, and on the first day of the month, the top of the mountains appeared. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the windows of the ark that he had made and sent out the raven, and it went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Then he sent out the dove from him to see if the waters had subsided from the face of the ground. But the dove found no place to rest its foot, and it returned to him in the ark. For the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. So he put out his hand and took it and brought it into the ark with him. He waited another 7 days, and again he sent out the dove from the ark. And the dove came back to him in the evening, and there in his beak, and there in his beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had subsided from the earth. Then he waited another 7 days and sent out the dove, and it did not return to him anymore. In this verse 13, and the 600 in the 601st year, in the first month, on the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and he saw that the face of the ground was drying. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dried. Then God said to Noah, "Go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you of all flesh, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, so that they may abound on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah went out with his sons and his wife and his son's wife, and every animals, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that move on the earth went out of the ark by families. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animals and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offering on the altar. And when the Lord smelled the pleasant odor, the Lord said in his heart, "I will never again curse the ground because of humankind, For the inclination of the human heart is evil from youth. Nor will I ever again destroy every living creature as I have done, as long as the earth endure. Seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Wow. God destroyed the earth because human from their youth are evil, from their youth are cruel, from their youth rejected God. And God already knows that. So let's take a moment to explain a little bit of Genesis 8. Okay? A little bit of Genesis 8. Genesis 8 from 1 to 22. The great turning point in the story is the phrase, God remembered Noah and all the animals that were with him in the ark. God remembered the covenant promise made to Noah in Genesis 6 verse 18 and shifted from destruction to reconstruction. God remembered previous covenant promises is often the signal of a major positive change in the fortune of his people in Exodus 2 verse 24. God begins a whole new creation. He makes a wind blow over the watery chaos. Just as God's wind over the deep had begun the first creation in Genesis 1 verse 2 and 2 to 12. Okay. Now, the destroying flood of Genesis 7 verse 11 to 24 is gradually reversed. The mountain of Ararat are located in the region of in modern day southeast Turkey and northern Iran. The raven and the dove are sent out to test whether they found dry land. The dove is sent out 3 times. The first time the dove returned with nothing, then returned with an olive leaf or branch on verse 11, and finally does not return at all on verse 12. The dove with an olive branch has become a symbol of peace, hope, and new life. In the story, the dove with the olive branch is a signal of hope that the waters have partially receded below the level of olive trees. The phrase, be fruitful and multiply, call to mind the same word used in the first creation story in Genesis 1:28. Also, verse 20 to 22. Noah's first building project after leaving the ark is an altar. Noah offered ritual clean animal. Chapter 7, verse 2 and 3. Upon the altar as burnt offering to give thanks to God. Good smell. God smelled the pleasant odor of the burnt offering as the smoke rises to the heaven, just like in Leviticus 1 verse 9. God resolves never again to curse the ground as he had done before. in chapter 3, verse 17, and chapter 4, verse 11. And never again to destroy every living creatures in verse 21. The flood is not successful in changing basic problem. The inclination of the human heart is evil from its youth in verse 21. And from here on, God will have to live with that fact and work with its reality that we are indeed evil and do stupid things. In the meantime, God promises not to disrupt the basic created order of the reasons and the agricultural rhythms of life on verse 22. In another word, God knows our hearts. He knows how evil we are and that we need to change. We need to do things according to His will. But He knows that we are evil. But He also promised that He will not destroy us. He will not destroy us the same way that He did by starting over again, by destroying us with water again. Hope this helped you understand chapter 8 a little bit and your relationship with God. And no matter how great your sin is, it's never too hard for God to forgive.